My little 6, 7-year-old looks at him and says, okay,
So now what's the problem?
if I'm responsible for his sins, shouldn't he be responsible for mine? My entire life, they had convinced me that I was somehow intrinsically flawed, that I wasn't okay with the system. No one could convince me that my daughter was. And it's something I'd never spoken about to her. And that simple logic coming from the mouth of a literal child made me realize it wasn't me. It was the laws of the world I lived in, and that I wasn't okay with them anymore. And that's the moment I decided I was gonna leave.
Welcome back to the BILFPod, where authenticity trumps authority. I am here with such a special guest who I truly have the utmost admiration for. I don't know if she knows this, but I did watch all of her episodes. I mean, she is a business mogul. She's a mom. I said already a MILF, a BILF. I mean, really has defied all odds coming from a community where your voice isn't heard, but she made sure that her voice was really heard and went against a lot of people and their opinions, kept the noise out, became a business mogul. I mean, really has created such an empire for herself while being a mom and running a business, and now currently, unfortunately, going through a divorce. But she looks incredible. So welcome to the show, Miss Julia Haart. Woo!
Thank you. Thank
I'm
you for
so
having
excited.
me.
Out of all the people that I've interviewed, you really are the most exciting. I tried reaching out to you, not your fault at all. I had somebody else do it, but you answered right away, and I'm just so intrigued by you.
Thank you.
You should be so really impressed with yourself and your endeavors and everything you're doing. So welcome.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. I know this was not easy, but you made it happen.
We made it happen.
That says a lot about your character. So we're just going to dive right in. You're good. We're going to dive right into it. So I have my own questions that I prepared for you, actually. You know, coming from a community, and I am familiar with, I am Jewish just like you, but I grew up a little different. I grew up like Reform conservative, where my uncle was the rabbi that ate shrimp. Yeah,
I love that.
Definitely
That's my kind of rabbi.
Definitely different type. So I could never imagine for myself growing up in a community where, you know, your voice really wasn't heard. So let's talk about it. Like, when did you finally say, all right, this is not, like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing the shadle thing. I'm not going to be dominated. Like, I'm going to go out. And where was that redefining moment for you?
Well, the sheitel thing, I didn't take off my sheitel until my wig, until I'd been out of the community for over a year.
Oh, wow.
Everything was gradual. But I would say the moment where I decided to leave was when my little daughter, Miriam, she was probably 5 or 6 years old, maybe 7, somewhere around that age, and she wanted to play soccer. And my husband at the time said, well, you can't, because, you know, in my community, girls have to wear skirts. Yeah. So his response to his 6, 7-year-old daughter was, if a man is passing by the field and you kick a ball, and because you're wearing a skirt, because you're not allowed to wear pants in my community, a man may see your knees and have inappropriate thoughts about you, and that's your fault and your sin, so you can't play soccer.
Wow.
And my little 6, 7-year-old looks at him and says, okay, well, if I'm responsible for his sins, shouldn't he be responsible for mine? And that simple logic coming from the mouth of a literal child. Okay, we're not going to talk about what kind of man is turned on by a 7-year-old's knees. Right. Let's leave that alone for a minute. But, you know, my entire life, they had convinced me that I was somehow intrinsically flawed, that I wasn't okay with the system. Right. No one could convince me that my daughter was. And it's something I'd never spoken about to her. So hearing the pure logic from the mouth of a literal child made me realize it wasn't me. It was the laws of the world I lived in, and that I wasn't okay with them anymore. And that's the moment I decided I was going to leave. And it took me 8 years to plan my escape. I had no education. I knew nothing about the outside world. I lived an 18th century existence. I didn't have television, radio, newspapers, magazines, movies, nothing. So I went on an 8-year exploration and, you know, read as many books as I could get my hands on and watched television surreptitiously and educated myself, found a way to make money. And then 8 years later, walked out the door.
That's insane. That's insane in such a good way.
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey, let me tell you.
It has to be. It's all part of the story. It's all part of it, right? So now you go and you decide, do you leave with the kids or you first leave by yourself?
I left with the kids. First I took Miriam because Batsheva was already married at the time and Shlomo was in Israel in yeshiva. So it was first Miriam and then Batsheva came along and then Shlomo came along. So very gradually I got everyone with me. Of course, my youngest is still religious, but obviously, I love him like crazy and we talk all the time and, he's young.
There's still hope.
He's young. There's still time.
There's still hope. I get it. So now here you are, 8 years go by, you're walking out the door and you obviously had some kind of business sense of some sort.
Zero.
You had wit. You had some.
Well, here's the thing. I'm a very logical, practical person. Yeah. I have a pretty high IQ. And the one nice thing about educating yourself is that you don't get bogged down with how things are done.
Right.
You figure out how things should be done and then you go and do them that way.
Yeah, you just wing it. And you have chutzpah. So the chutzpah and winging it just is great.
Well, yeah, it's more than winging. I think it's because I knew I didn't know. I asked a lot of questions. I educated myself. I learned how to make shoes so that I could figure out how to do them better. I wasn't shackled and imprisoned by the norm.
Right.
Because I didn't know what the norm was.
Right.
And that really helped me. And also I think the fact that I had survived time travel. That's what it felt like. I had left the 1800s. I had gone to the 21st century. So my feeling kind of was, well, if I could time travel and survive starting a business, that should be easy.
Yeah.
And so I just went and did it.
That's kind of just what you do, especially when you have children. And what I think people don't understand is the community that you come from really is like time travel.
Oh, no, it is time travel.
You don't turn on the lights on Shabbat. Like there's very, very strict rules that don't even apply, my opinion, not to offend you, just they're not applicable for today. Well,
I think even more than like the rules that restrict travel or turning on lights, it's the role of women that I have the big issue with. In my world, your biology defines your destiny.
Yes.
If you're born a woman, you're supposed to have babies, get married as a teenager, be subservient and obedient to your husband, then help your children have grandchildren, and then die.
Yeah.
That's your life.
Yeah.
A large part of my life, I just kind of felt like a cow in the sense of like I was a baby making, baby feeding machine. And we were all interchangeable, and there's no self-autonomy, self-determination. You don't really have any optionality in your life. And that's the real issue. If you want to keep Shabbos or kosher, all these things, no problem. They're beautiful. Religion has so much beauty in it. But when you tell me that women, nashim dait and kalos, that a woman's mind is light and she's incapable of grasping the same subjects that men are, that's where you lose me.
Yeah. Agreed.
When you tell me that a woman has to be subservient to her master on earth, that's when you lose me.
Yeah.
And so, my goal has always been, because I have a deep love for the Jewish community, I've been fighting anti-Semitism since October 7th. I have a deep love. I don't care whether you even hate me. I'm still going to love you. Yeah. And it's just about changing the laws that keep women down.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. That's why I never joined Chabad or the religious community. While I do love the religion very much, I believe in tradition. I believe exactly the same thing. But being Jewish is a part of me. It doesn't encompass all of who I am. Yeah. And I think that like for people that do or women that come from your community, that's hard. That's really hard because that's what you're just Jewish. You don't get to be a hot mom that dresses in stilettos.
Even if you are, you get to be a mom.
Yeah.
You don't get to go to Stanford.
Yes.
You want to know how many people from my community went to Stanford?
None.
But my daughter Miriam did, but of course she left. I'm sure there's maybe some other outlier, but otherwise, no. Someone sent me a letter recently from the Beis Yaakov, which is the school system I went to in Brooklyn, which was like, if your daughters are going to college, immediately come have a meeting. We don't believe in college, and you're destroying your soul and your children's soul and your grandchildren's soul. They want women to be silent, obedient, and subservient.
Yeah.
And that's my issue. That's my only issue. I love the people in that community. I want them to be safe. I want them to have more. It's that
But
simple.
progression in general, I mean, we've struggled for so many years as women.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time. You think that as a society in general, even outside of the Jewish community, that we have really progressed, and we maybe a little bit, but in
We've got a long
retrospect-
way to go.
Yeah, exactly. We have a very, very long way to go. So when you're in a community that's not supportive of that, I agree. I 100% agree with that. And that doesn't mean we don't love our religion. It doesn't mean it at all, because it is beautiful and very traditional. It's just that our voice is bigger than, and we serve a purpose greater than who we are. So
Exactly.
I think you kind of always knew that you were different in that way. I feel
Well,
like
I always was different. I was always the odd man out because in Russia, I was the Jew. And then I lived in an internment camp for 2 years because we came out in the 70s, way before Gorbachev and Perestroika. It was still the USSR.
Yeah.
It was still Brezhnev. My father was a massive anti-communist who got arrested for keeping Shabbat. And so my parents and I were traded for grain. And I lived in an internment camp for almost a year and a half. So I left Russia when I was 3. I came to Austin, Texas when I was 5. So I lived in a refugee camp for a year and a half. I lived in the Vatican, actually, funnily enough.
Wow.
And, so first I was a Jew in Russia. Then I was a person of no country. And then I came to Texas and I was the first Russian in Texas. And then when I went to the 1800s into this very ultra-extremist, ultra-Orthodox world, I was this Russian kid. Like, there weren't Russian kids back then, you know. 10 years later, there are. But in the 70s and early 80s, that didn't exist. So I was always the odd man out. And then even when I left my community, I don't know too many people who have left my community. So I'm still like, kind of the odd man out.
I feel like that's your superpower. And that's how you are able to make it. I mean, in business in general, there's not a lot of business women moguls. There's not. That's just not what it is. But you figured it out. So now you go and you create this incredible agency, right? The modeling agencies. And how did you, I mean, this was a huge groundbreaking deal for you.
Well, to me, it seemed very logical. I saw that the modeling industry was changing. I saw that social media was giving the power to the talent because, historically, it was the casting agent, the editor, the photographer, the brand creative director. They had all the power. You could be a hardworking woman. You could be beautiful. It didn't matter. You didn't have the power. Yeah. Now with social media, the talent has the audience. They bring the audience to the brand. They bring the audience to the creative director. So by literally empowering them and utilizing talent and helping them shape their social media, we basically changed the power dynamic. We made the women powerful. We made them in control. And, we took a $70 million modeling agency in 2 years through COVID and built $1 billion business. Yeah. Just pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. You really took the social media. I mean, social media is huge now. It wasn't as big then. It was getting bigger. So you were able to leverage social media to give women back their voices. And I remember
we
watching
used it in a way that people hadn't used it before.
Yeah,
exactly.
I remember watching the show thinking, because at that point, I mean, I used Facebook and Instagram, like not huge. And now social media has been a huge platform for women and women's rights and women's voices and modeling. And I remember watching the show and you being very firm that you wanted the women to hold the power, not anybody else. So they were able to advertise their brand. You started a lot with the branding, which is huge now.
Because I didn't want them just posting beautiful pictures of themselves. We brought in those who, because you can hit a tennis ball or walk a runway, doesn't mean you can create compelling content. You need producers, directors, filmographers, videographers. So that's what we did in 2019. We helped actually curate and create the content. And, it just kind of exploded. It was doing amazingly well. And I realized it wasn't about the runway at all. And so we signed deep sea divers and mountain climbers and rollerbladers and fencers. I didn't care what you did. If you did it better than anyone else and you had an audience, I helped you monetize it. I helped you create your own fortune, your own dynasty. And, that's kind of the dream, is to create this army of financially independent women who never have to ask permission.
Yeah,
that's
and
the dream.
outside of because I remember specifically there was an episode, what happens when they age out? The models, they age out so young, and you wanted to make sure that after they aged out, they were still able to continue to brand themselves.
Exactly.
And I remember watching this thinking, this woman is genius. Like, not only do you care about them now, because it
but they have
happens,
to have
a game plan after.
Yeah.
It's like, for the football players, what happens to them after?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? You're so accustomed to one world. So what happens after the modeling? What else can they do? Can they do a skincare line? All of those. And I remember
you have to prepare. You have to prepare while you're in the eyes of the world for the after.
Yeah.
So if you can find your passion, find that which really is meaningful to you. So when you stop walking that runway or hitting the tennis ball or throwing the football, people are coming to your social media because you're an expert in X. You're passionate about Y. And then you can take that and monetize it by creating product. And then you can make money while you're sleeping.
Yes.
So, it's about, again, it's shifting the power dynamic. It's putting the power in the hands of the talent. And that's what we did. And it exploded. It really worked. Thank God.
Progressive.
Progressive. It's continuing to.
Now but before, social media was not used they were posting pictures, they were using it a little bit. Yeah. But just that business mindset in general says so much about you and being able to be so progressive before it became, now everybody wants to brand. Not everybody was branding that. Right. Yeah. So that just says so much about you and your character. Your children must be so proud. And
they're my best friends.
One thing I did notice about you, and I happen to run the same game plan, is being super supportive of our children and why it's important. And I remember watching this show and you really showcasing the support that you had, whether your son decided if he wanted to be religious and he was teeter-tottering with that. And then Batsheva, I remember she gets married and you were supportive of that. And they're like, and then you have Miriam who was like figuring out her sexuality and all of these things. And no matter what your children were doing, you were such a supportive mom, regardless.
Thank you.
That says so much about your character. See, I really did do my research. Usually I have the questions written. I know all of this. So was that coming from a world that, I don't want to say narrow-minded, but maybe that is very, maybe narrow-minded, just not as progressive, primitive, that's a better word. How were you able to be so open and accepting when you didn't grow up like that?
Do you remember when you're young and you say, I'm never going to do this to my kids?
Yes.
Okay. I actually wrote an entire diary of, I'm never going to do this to my kids. And when I gave birth to my kids, I read it. And I made myself a promise that my purpose in life is to help them become the best version of whoever they want to be. Unconditional love actually means that.
Yes.
Not that I'm going to love my kids if they become a lawyer or a doctor or this, or I think they should do that. That's not unconditional love.
Right.
Unconditional love, my job as a parent was to ensure that A, they knew what they wanted, and B, that I gave them the keys to get there.
Right.
The education, the wherewithal, the capabilities, but it had to be driven by what they wanted, what their personality was. And, the other promise I made to myself is with each child, when they were born, I looked into their face in bed at the hospital and I promised them that every action I would take in private, I would ask myself, if this became public, would my children be proud of me or embarrassed? Yeah. And if the answer is proud, then it's something I do. And if the answer is not, it's something I don't do.
Yeah.
And I think in the end, when your children see that you live by the rules you set for them and that you never lie to them, I have never lied to my kids.
Right.
They asked me a question about sex when they were younger or something I didn't feel comfortable talking about. I didn't make up stories about storks or I don't know, all the other weird things I would literally say to them, I think you're too young. I'm not comfortable answering this question. Ask me again in 2 years.
Yeah.
And then when I was ready to answer, I would answer truthfully. So they knew that I never lied to them.
Right.
And so they felt very comfortable asking me questions. And I think the second part is that they knew that as long as they told me the truth, it would be very unlikely that I would be truly upset at them.
Yeah.
Just don't lie to me. I never lied to them, and I made sure that, they were very truthful with me. And that engenders trust and respect. And I think that's our purpose as parents, is to give our children the keys that they need to live the life they want to live.
Yeah.
Not the life we think that they should want to live.
Yeah, I'm smiling because these are like such parallels to the way that I raise my children. Look, parents don't come with a set of directions. We have no idea what's right or what's wrong.
Well, I did raise 7 siblings, so I may have had a little idea.
So you have a little advantage.
Just as much.
But when it comes to your children, you're right. It's not, I love you if, you marry Jewish. I love you if, this is your choice. And it has, and when you keep the relationship open, and I'm not a parent, expert at all by any stretch of the, or a psychologist, but I do believe when you're open and honest and you're authentic, regardless of how that looks, I think that children respect you more. They're more open and honest with you. And then you have a thriving relationship between all parties.
Exactly.
And there's no secrets. I mean, that's how it is in our house. There's no secrets.
That's amazing.
Everything is vomited on the kitchen table.
Good.
It doesn't matter what it is.
It's healthy.
It doesn't matter
Very
when it comes to
healthy.
sex, when it comes to drugs. And maybe it's a little unconventional. I am definitely unconventional, but it's worked out really well in my house to develop a relationship between my children that is open, honest, and safe.
Yep, exactly. They need to feel safe.
And a lot of times the children don't feel safe.
Yeah, and you want them to tell you things and not their friends, or ask the same information from people who are probably not the right people to be asking for very serious life questions and issues.
Agreed. So another parallel that we have is we have very good relationships. I want to talk about this and the importance. You have a good relationship with your kid's father. It's showcased on the show. Same thing with myself. I have a very good relationship. He comes to all the dinners. You might find him in my house at 7 a.m. cooking. It's a little weird, but whatever. It works.
Yeah, ours is not like that. Nobody's cooking in my house other than
It wasn't
my
always
chef.
like that. It was but seeing the relationship that I have with their dad, I think when you are raising children and you edify the other parent, it's important. I spent a long time fighting with my ex-husband before it became like this. And I see you have the same relationship. Would you agree?
I just think it's important for your to put your kids first.
Agreed.
That's it. Of course, if your husband is abusive or something, it's impossible. There's nothing you can do. But if there is a way, find that way, because your children will just be happier.
Yeah, and they just want to be loved.
That's it.
They really don't care.
Your kids matter, put them first.
Always.
Yeah.
So question for you. What is one thing that you would share today that you've never, ever spoken about that you feel comfortable saying?
Honestly, I share everything. I don't really have things that I'm uncomfortable speaking about. To me, once I decided to make my life public to help other women, I realized that if I make my life all zhuzh and glamour and it's perfect and everything is wonderful, that doesn't actually help anybody.
Right.
You have to show the bumps and the bruises and show that with the bumps and the bruises, you still succeed, you still thrive, you still survive, you still grow, right? So I'm trying to think, I don't actually have anything that I've kept hidden or haven't spoken about.
Maybe
Nothing.
something like somebody would be surprised.
Honestly, you'd have to ask me a question, because I can't even think of anything. I can't think of anything that,
What was the hardest moment for you? I would say.
Oh my God, there's too many. I mean,
or give me one, really.
Well, the hardest I would say currently was, after I built a $1 billion business, to watch my soon-to-be ex-husband, accuse me of pretty much everything other than witchcraft. And for, 3.5 years later, everyone knows the truth. And my soon-to-be ex is on the run from the law, and there's arrest warrants out against him, and he's fled the country, and they've taken, his passport, and he gets arrested if he tries to come into the country. But go back 3.5 years ago, he was accusing me of everything, and people actually believed him without an iota of evidence. And after I'd built a $1 billion business, to watch a man take credit for all my work and be patted on the back for it, that was probably one of the most difficult moments in my last 12 years of life. But now, here I am, hopefully almost at the end of my divorce, and I've already won, my 50% and power of attorney over his, and hopefully a lot more is coming at the end. Justice is epic.
Yeah. Yes, I think that karma's a big fat bitch at your front door.
Hey, when you act like a bastard, karma's a bitch.
I agree. I do. So you definitely are unconventional in the sense that you mean business in the boardroom. Same thing with me. I come with the 6-inch, 9-inch stiletto heels. What you see is what you get. I probably do not speak the most conventional. I don't always look conventional. For me, I'll tell you. I'll ask you first. But how are you able to overcome that when people have their, societal norms of how you should look or how you should speak or project yourself. And, is she cocky? Oh no, I have to be calm. I mean, it's constant battle. How were you able to overcome that?
I ignore it completely. Then you don't have to overcome anything. I do not care what people think about me.
I love that.
Period.
And that's hard.
If I did, I'd be in the kitchen in Muncie cooking Shabbat dinner. Period. Think about it. I have given up all my friends, my family, my siblings that I raised, my parents, everyone I loved, to choose what to put on my body, to choose how to look, to choose what happens here.
Yeah.
There is no power on earth that is going to tell me what is appropriate and inappropriate. I don't care.
Amen. Amen. It's true. I think when you stop, I do think there is a point in your life where you kind of wake up and you're like, I really just don't give a shit anymore. Like what you see is what you get in a good sense.
Honestly, if I cared what people thought, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I would still be in Muncie.
Yeah.
Believe me, I got, you could imagine what happened when I left. There was a lot of press about it too. I got attacked. I got vilified. I got accused of a lot of bizarre things. I'm always going to stand for what I believe is right. To me, every low-cut top and miniskirt is my freedom. It is my freedom flag, and I plan on flying it until the day I die.
I love that.
I don't care if I'm going to have wrinkly knees. I'm still going to be wearing miniskirts, and you guys are going to have to deal with it. Because that to me is freedom. Yeah. My entire life I was told that I have to cover my body, that men's thoughts are my problem. So yeah, I just don't care. Don't care.
So what's next for you? Now, I mean, what haven't you done?
Well, I've got a bunch of new businesses coming up. I'm just waiting for my divorce to be over.
Anything special that you want to talk about?
I don't want to talk about them yet. I cannot talk about them yet, but there's a lot of exciting things coming. I just need to finish this divorce first, and then I can start all these projects. So yeah, I'm so excited to be free, to be single, to be divorced. I'm going to throw the biggest party this city has seen once that happens.
Can I come?
Absolutely.
I would love to come celebrate you. I would love it. I mean, seriously, you're just such a ball of energy despite what's going on. But this must be like your survival mode all the time. Do you feel like you're in survival mode?
For a very long time in the last 3.5 years, yes, I have been in survival mode. Yeah. It's not even been feeling like survival mode. We have been in survival mode. But, we just keep winning. And winning feels good. And justice feels good. And truth feels good. Yeah. So I'm feeling a lot better today than I did, a month ago, 6 months ago, 10 months ago.
I love that. What would you say for women? Because I think a lot of us battle this, whether it's depression or, what everybody's thinking. What would you say to a woman right now that is struggling with just something that's going on in her life, whether it's a divorce or leaving her job or something just battling?
So when my kids were little, well, not little, I mean, before I left the community, they wanted to go to a zoo. And I hate zoos. I don't like things in cages. It's the whole freedom thing. It makes me uncomfortable. Blah. So we found this zoo in San Diego where it's like these big, it's like big open wide spaces, and it's basically recreating their natural habitat. So it's not, they're not in cages. And we're in this like a Range Rover, and you're going from habitat to habitat, and the guide looks at us and says, "This is an African elk. It can jump higher than any animal in the animal kingdom. Can you find the gate, the things that are keeping it in its enclosure?" And we look around, no gate, no fence, nothing. So how are they keeping these animals in? Finally, we all give up. And the guide points us to 4 long telephone poles at the corners of the enclosure. Like, just imagine long poles like these lights, right? Very, very long telephone poles. And there's nothing underneath them, but connecting these 4 poles at the very, very top is like a half pipe C, like a C shape.
Right.
You ready for this?
Tell me.
These animals, before they jump, they come up to the edge of wherever they're planning on jumping, and they look up to calculate the distance before they make the jump. Now, these animals, they would come up to the edge of the enclosure, look up, see the half pipe C, and think there was a ceiling, and never try to jump. They could walk right through. There is no gate, no fence. It is a psychological block where they see something and they say, oh my God, it's a ceiling. I can't jump. And they stay enslaved. They stay in that enclosure. And that is my message to women. Stop thinking there's a ceiling. You can walk right through. It's here. That's where it is. Yeah. And if we tell ourselves there's a ceiling, there will be. If we choose to walk on through, I promise you, you can change your life. One foot in front of another. When people always say to me, oh my God, how do you walk in high-heeled shoes? I give them the same answer. Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. And that's how you change your life. Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. Just get up and start walking because there is no impediment. It's all in here.
I love that.
That's my message.
That is the best. I'm going to use that. I mean, I say the same thing to all my agents and the ladies. I'm like, the only one that's getting in the way of you is you.
Yeah.
This is not like all of this other nonsense. It's not real. It's not real. It's not, I'm sorry you have your period, but you have to go to work. I'm sorry. Like, you know, it's absolutely 100% true. So I'm going to do a quick thing because I know you're pressed for time. So, all right, ready? Rapid fire. All right. Quote you live by.
I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees.
Well said.
That's Emiliano Zapata, Mexican revolutionary.
All right, so morning ritual, because you're absolutely stunning. So morning ritual you never skip.
TNS serum.
Same.
Love it.
Love it. A misconception people have about you.
I'm actually kind of shy. I have to force myself to do all of this.
Funny. Your proudest personal moment as a mom.
Pretty much every day.
I love that. That's genuine. I love that. The next boundary you're ready to break.
My next business that I'm about to launch, I hope breaks a lot of boundaries, but I can't talk about it.
You're going to break. I think you're just going to break forget the boundaries. You're going to break
I'm
the
very
world.
excited. This is a total game changer. So hopefully this divorce can be completed and I can move on.
Well, I can tell a lot about your character just from you being here.
Thank you.
You really should be so proud of yourself. I'm sure your children are. You have really shown the world what breaking barriers looks like. And this is I feel like you're just scratching the surface.
Oh, I'm just getting started.
Yeah, I can tell.
I can't wait to be unshackled and free.
It's going to happen. It's any day now.
Yes,
and, I wish you so much luck in your future endeavors. I know, I think we all know that you're going to be successful in anything that you do in life. And, your story is such an inspiration to women, young women, myself included. I enjoyed every moment of watching watching your Netflix. I hope that you do another series. I don't know. I hope that you do
Can't talk about that now, but yeah.
But, Julia Haart, if you do not know who she is, I really urge you to read about her story, watch her show. She is a women advocate. I mean, just an advocate in general for believing in yourself. And like you said, putting one foot in front of the other. It's not that hard. Anything you want to do in life, you're the only one that's getting in the way of you. And I say this all the time. Nike came up with the best slogan, just do it. So for you ladies and gentlemen that are out there, you can see that you really can do anything in this world if you put your mind to it.
Very true.
So if people want to find you, where would they find you?
So on Instagram, I'm Julia Haart. I have a book called Brazen. You can buy it anywhere. I also do the audio, so you can actually hear me tell my story. And Body by Julia is my shapewear brand. If you go on the website now, you can't actually buy anything. We're sold out of literally everything. But we're getting a new shipment in soon. So I'm so sorry if you're trying to purchase and it says sold out. More product is coming. Looking forward to starting afresh and free and single.
Where you can finally breathe.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It was such a pleasure.
This was great.
You're such a breath of fresh air, a delight, gorgeous in every sense of the word.
So are you. You're stunning.